the first Black Widow on the shelf ever. So what can I say? I've never put Black Widow on the shelf. Ever. And that's surprising. I started liking Black Widow when I started liking Daredevil. I got into Daredevil, I started reading the books, and I came across a part, I was buying like graphic novels and reading sections of his history, and I found this area where he was like dating Black Widow. And I found that very interesting. I did, and I tended to like Black Widow. Then, the Marvel movies came out. And Black Widow hit a couple of notes with me. One, she was a badass warrior redhead. That fits criteria like Red Sonja, instantly interested. Two, she was a no-power superhero. Now, in the comic books, if I'm not mistaken, she does have some powers, though it doesn't seem to show. I haven't noticed, even when I read like 10 books of her series that was specifically Black Widow, like her comic book alone, and I didn't notice it, but from what I understand, she's supposed to be enhanced, kind of like a Captain America or something like that. The way that I was reading the books, I never noticed this. So maybe if that was a different continuity or something of that nature, I don't 100% know. But I think I remembered hearing that at some point. But in the movies, she is portrayed, in the cinematic universe, the MCU, she is portrayed as a no-power superhero. And on a personal level, that's my favorite. When I was growing up, there were two shows that coincided that were affecting each other. There was Xena the Warrior Princess, and there was Hercules. I started watching Hercules, but a big Superman that can, punch mountains and, move a house and things of that nature, he solved 80% of his problems with punch it real hard. I'm not saying there's nothing exciting about that. I like Superman. But when I watched Xena, that was an awakening for me. Xena is primarily what got me into the skill-based character. Things like Conan the Barbarian. He's human. He may be strong, but every single thing that he does, there is a chance that he could fail and or die at doing it. Batman, for me, used to be very much that character. He was one of my old-time superheroes for a long time, until I felt like the writing curved him out to be basically supernatural with his abilities. And it started to bug me. He started to fall into superhero territory, superhero with superpowers, and as of yet, in the MCU and things of that nature that I've watched, she hasn't. And these are the kind of characters I like. It is infinitely more interesting to me when Captain America is fighting a bunch of enemies, okay? It's cool. He's throwing his shield, he's jumping, he's running as fast as cars and everything like that. It's cool. But let me just talk about two things that I've seen the Black Widow do in the MCU. Two small little things that immediately made her the character that I'm paying attention to. One, during I believe it's in the first Avengers movie, there is an invasion. And in the invasion, during the main climax of the movie, there's this part where she jumps off of a building. Is it off the building? Well, here's what I remember. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, but this is what I specifically remember. She jumped and put two daggers into one of their backs, and then started steering with the guy and everything like that, and she's taking a major risk. Because if Captain America's doing something like that and he runs into something or he collides, like a head-on collision, and the two blow up, he'll roll out of it. He'll be able to literally fly off the explosion, whoosh, land with his shield and be cool. She can't do that. She is taking every single thing she does is a risk. She has two handguns, some tasers and stuff. And it's all her wits and her skills. When she's in the truck during during Ultron. I believe it was that. I think it was the Ultron movie. I think so. She lands in a truck during a big confrontation, and like a grenade falls into the truck, and she has to act like fast to protect herself, or she will die in that instant. She does something, I can't remember exactly what. These are like small little things that are clicking in my head, and it's been a long time since I've watched through the MCU. I'm going to be honest with you. I watched the MCU one time through, that is it. I watched Captain America one time. Then I watched Iron Man one time. Then I watched Iron Man 2 one time. Avengers one time, and so on and so forth. I am just now, through Disney Plus, going back through the entirety of the Marvel Universe again, and I am just in chronological order, and I just reached Iron Man 1. But what I'm telling you is there are things that stick out in my mind about stuff she did that seem more impressive to me than like when Iron Man in the Avengers, he's in the rotators, the fans, the engines, and he's trying to push it and everything, and then Captain America's doing all this stuff and they're fighting and everything. Believe it or not, while that's really impressive, I'm not for a second thinking that they will not succeed. They're superheroes. Iron Man's technology puts him in the realm of being superhuman. There's no way that technology is like going to fail him, or most of the time that's the way it looks. It's going to work. I never once thought that he wouldn't like get that job done. But when she is on the ship and she falls down into the bottom levels and the Hulk goes crazy and starts running, that's like a sheer moment of survival panic. See, one mistake from her and she's done. And then when she fought Hawkeye, that was another part right there. That's a skill-based hero and a skill-based hero. Superhuman skill base, but these two humans fight each other, and the first one that makes the mistake is the first one that's going to get it. Those scales are infinitely more interesting to me than super-powered superheroes, even though I love that a lot as well. And so, she has been my favorite character in terms of most standout moments when I watch the MCU. She floors me because every time she is active, there is a chance that one mistake can end her. The other people don't have those scales. When Spider-Man can literally take a grenade to the face, he'll be okay. A building fell on him. He lifted it. I mean, come on, guys. It is the stakes are infinitely higher every time she is involved. And yet, I've never once put one of her on the shelf. Ever. Not ever. But why? A lot of it comes down to buying the characters that stick out the most to me, prioritizing things like trying to finish Ninja Turtles and trying to get a whole bunch of the Motu and whatnot. So when a lot of the Black Widow figures come out, I do pass on them. But there's another underlined reason as well. And that was for a very long time, it was like a stigma that you're supposed to like the guy superheroes. That's the way it's been put for years. There was this stigma like Wonder Woman is easily the superhero that I like the most in all of DC. The most. But for the longest time, I did not collect any Wonder Woman merchandise. I just didn't. It wasn't until something happened in my life that kind of faced me with mortality, we'll put it that way, that I woke up and said, I don't have time to like what the cliches want me to like what people demand I like, or to do what people demand I should do. I want to collect toys, and I want to collect figures that mean something to me on some level. Because of that, Black Widow. 100%. should have been on this shelf a long time ago, and she never was. Now she is. Let's open her. All right, we're skipping the box this time, going right into the figure. Black Widow. Why are we skipping the box this time? There is an actual reason. Stand up, ladies. Stand up. Don't fall. I thought about it, but the box, it's one of those things that it would have been good for an in-box collector, and that's about all I have to say about it. It's not the kind of box I'm going to keep. It's literally just covering the plastic I care about. It's gone. This Black Widow is unreal. I got this for $10 at Ollie's during a toy sale where they put a bunch of toys on the table and said, we called it like a mass toy clearance or whatever, like a toy event, and anything on the table was $10. So she was $10, okay? She came with 2 guns, which I've already got put into the holsters. She came with these sickle things, like these chain sickles, which is crazy. She came with 4 different hands. Technically 6 different hands, because she also has the hands that she's already got. So all these hands, plus the 2 that she has. So she has 2 fist-making hands, 2 grab hands for the sickles, and 2 gun trigger hands for holding the guns. She has effects, all kinds of effects. She has a set of effects that go on her wrist, right here. There are these little blue things, and these blue things, they go on her wrists right there, so that she can have the effect of actually shooting the wrist bullet things, which those... I've seen sometimes in the comics where I see them firing like guns, and then I've seen where they're like electric or something like that, little taser things. And she came with a stand, and all these effects. She came with a big explosion. She came with a bunch of little things like this that could be like where guns are choo-choo-choo or whatever, like hitting the ground, little explosions. A little bit bigger of an explosion as opposed to the as opposed to the tiny ones. Then these, like, it's crazy the amount of stuff that she came with. It really is insanity how much she came with. I mean, and you can set it up any way you want too. So you can put this on any one of the 6 pegs, lock it into place, like you can put it here, and then have her jumping out over it, shooting the guns or whatever, while explosions happening all underneath of her and everything. That's crazy, the amount of stuff that this figure came with. Now, I imagine the normal value of the figure is higher than what I paid for it. What I paid for it, I'm assuming, without a doubt, is an absolute steal, and she's going to be fantastic on the shelf. So, let's talk about her. First off, the face. The face is important to me. It always is on every single one of these characters. And if the face is bad, usually I will dislike the figure completely. That face, that is an excellent Scarlett Johansson. I'm fine with that. She's very good MCU. She has the old arms, so she doesn't have the elbow, but she has pretty good movement. It goes about that high. It's not terrible, but it could be better. We could have got the elbows. It would have helped a lot. She has an upper torso crunch. She can go down about that far. She can go up about this far. That brings us to the head. She can turn the head all the way around. She can't really look up. She can't really look down that much. She's pretty much in a set where she turns her head, and that's about the most of it. She has the thigh movement right here, and she has the knees, so she can go all the way up to kick her own butt. That's solid. Her feet are flat. Even though they are heels, they actually flatten that part out, and I actually appreciate that because she can actually stand up, as opposed to some other female characters where they don't do that for them, and it's actually a problem in the long run. Body-wise, it's a pretty good cap. It's pretty realistic in terms of its size. Maybe some of the portions because some of this could very well be reuse. I don't know. This could have been crafted specifically for her. I don't know. I don't keep up with the MCU figures. She's only the second MCU figure that I have, in all honesty. I have Agent Carter, which is kind of MCU, but even that you could argue is not necessarily direct real person MCU. And then I have her now, and that's it. And then I just got the Sam Raimi Spider-Man that they released. So not too much that I can go on here to talk about the way the body caps work, as opposed to comic book female character and real world female character, because it is different, and you could argue that it should be different. Comic books lean a little harder into the fantasy of it, where the MCU figures, they're going after a different kind of idea. This is very much a human person. This very much is a comic book character with ridiculous portions, okay? The proportions are very different on a comic book female character than they are on a real world character. And I'm not hating that idea. I'm actually not mad about it. I think she looks fine. I'm noticing that she's short. Am I imagining it? Let's look at a different figure real quick. Maybe the scaling ain't so bad, because she's taller than Wolverine, but I wouldn't imagine that she'd be, say, she shouldn't be like as tall as Iron Man. So I actually think this is probably fine. Let's check out Carter real quick. We just put Carter on the shelf not too long ago. Are you guys? Okay, she's shorter than Carter, which this could come down to Scarlett. Scarlett Johansson might be a little smaller. I actually don't know. Personally. So maybe this is perfect scaling. Maybe this isn't bad at all. Her movement seems fine. The body seems fine as far as I could tell. It's got all the white and everything, which this is from the movie. So I expected it to be about that. I kind of like all this stuff right here. You could argue that some of it could have been highlighted differently. Like, okay, the white that comes up right here and goes across and goes on the back and everything like that. Maybe it could have been a little more detailed, but I don't hate it at all. I actually think it's really solid. The face works for me. The body dimensions work for me. I'm not hating anything so far. The amount of effects and everything that she came with, I'm going to be able to do almost anything that I want to do with her. She's solid. As far as I'm concerned, that is a solid Black Widow. It is specifically from the Black Widow movie, if I'm not mistaken, her movie. And that's good too, because as far as I'm looking right here, the only thing I'm finding that I would honestly complain about is I would have liked the elbows. I like the elbows. I like these figures to have those elbows, and like the guys have them and everything, and she has them. How long ago did you come out that you got? That makes me feel like some parts of her must have been reused from an old line. I'm curious if this was originally cast in black for a figure that came out in the earlier Marvel Legends MCU waves, and where we got new legs, we didn't get new arms. Because that's about the only thing I could complain about, though. There's not enough here for me to cause a stink and say bad things necessarily about the figure. I personally think it's really solid. I think it's going to work out real well. And once I get it on the stands and the explosions and everything happening, she's going to look awesome on the shelf. So that's the first Black Widow I have ever added to my collection, ever. I've had other Iron Mans, like when I talked about how Iron Man was the first real Iron Man in this scale that ever hit the shelf. I had him back in 3 3/4 or whatever, and that was fine. But I've never gone out of my way to buy Iron Mans or anything like that. But he wasn't necessarily the first. He was the first of this line that I actually appreciated enough, and he'll probably be the only one to really hit the shelf until something crazy catches my attention. Her, on the other hand, I'm curious how she's going to hold up over time on the shelf. And the reason I say that is because I've already got 2 or 3 Black Widows on the way. I have the gray suit Black Widow that's on the way, and I have that really good Target exclusive Black Widow that's on the way, and then I have a classic Black Widow that's on the way, that's on like a classic retro card back or whatever, single carded figure. And so I'll soon have 4 Black Widows to add to the shelf. Curious what the best one of those will end up being. And that Target exclusive one looks unbelievable. But comic book, and that's the reason I was stressing the idea that we're going for 2 very different looks right here. She is meant to be a real person, a movie MCU character. I think that's different and loans itself to a different aesthetic than if you have comic book characters on the shelf. Jessica Drew, as a comic book female, has a very different body than, say, Scarlett Johansson. Also, I would say the same thing for comic book male characters. When I buy Captain America for the shelf, I am buying a Captain America comic book variant, and he's going to cost me money. I missed out on the one that I want. I'm hopefully going to try to wait it out. I'm going to try to wait it out, and I hope I'm not screwing myself into paying an $80 price tag or something. I'm going to try to wait it out. I want the 20th anniversary thing, the Captain America. That thing looked amazing. That's the one I want. If I want just one Captain America for the shelf, that's the one I want. And what I'm getting at is I want him to have a comic book body. He needs to be big, bulk. I need to see it. He has to have muscles that almost don't even make sense. He's a comic book character. But I don't expect that if I buy the World War II Chris Evans version of the character. Then I expect a real-world Chris Evans type body that's more representative to the MCU, not comic books. So that's the reason I was really kind of trying to express, hey, I realize that her body cap looks different than some of the other figures on my shelf. I actually think there's a reason for that. Just like I'm not mad at the Spider-Man figures. I've heard recently, and I think that's the reason it's on my mind, that her body cap is different than what I have on the rest of the shelf, is because I've heard a lot of people talking about the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And they're talking about how they don't think the body's right, or that they think this or that. I've heard this quite a few times now, that they're like, this seems rushed, the body seems wrong, should have had more definition, I like my Spider-Man to have more bulk or whatever. I don't see it, because what I see is a very human body for what Tobey Maguire had, a real body. Not like one that was sculpted over time at a ridiculous level. He was a dude, and he looked like a dude. He was an in-shape dude, but a human, normal, achievable body type dude. And that's, for me, that's what that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man should have, is that kind of body cap. I really like this. So I have no complaints so far on any of the MCU that I have. But I do lean more towards the fantastic in terms of the comic book sculpts. I do tend to like them better, which is why when I decided to put the Avengers on my shelf, I want comic book variants of them. I want a comic book Iron Man, a comic book Thor, a comic book Captain America. This is how I see it. This is how I want it. That's what appeals to me more. If I'm going to put an entire cast of X-Men on my shelf, I want comic book variants of those X-Men, and so on and so forth. Either way, I think I've said enough, explained enough, talked enough. This is actually the longest video we've had in a while, because I've been doing kind of catch-up Blaze videos where I'm like, hey, this is only 17 minutes, this is 10 minutes, this is 11 minutes. Just blazing through them, bow, 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 trying to get these things open. And now I got a whole wave of like 9 figures on the way. I just got noticed that like they're all coming in like the next week. So, I'm not going to be catching up. Not without doing like a live, full on, hey, I'm live here, I'm doing unboxings on the spot, talk to me for a while. Unless that becomes a thing, I'm not catching up. So I'm back to just talking toys. And that's fine. I'm happy with it. Anyways, guys, I've added Black Widow from the Black Widow movie onto the shelf. She seems awesome to me. I'm incredibly happy with this one. I can't wait to set all this stuff up. Explosions and this is going to be so cool. Later on.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.